Welcome to Blend's Localization Leaders series, where we interview industry leaders who are paving the way for advances in localization through their work. Today we're talking to Natascha Riegger, Localization Marketing Manager at Cato Networks. Cato Networks is a network security company that develops secure access service edge technology. Thank you so much for joining us today, Natascha. I'm so happy to have you on our Localization Leaders series.
Hi, Corey, and thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So we can start by just giving everyone a bit of background on you and your career path. So can you just start by telling us a bit about your journey at becoming Cato Network's Localization Marketing Manager?
Sure. So I'll start from scratch a bit. I'm originally from
Sure.
Germany. I studied ethnography and cultural anthropology, which is a specific branch of anthropology that concerns itself with the study of human societies and cultures and their developments. So after graduating, I started working in research, first in a museum and then after in a private foundation. So I do have to say that, this experience and background does help me a lot in my current work as a localization manager, because localization is basically the process of adapting language, images, or content or product even to a local culture's norms and expectations. So after having dedicated years of researching these cultural norms, I do have to say that this knowledge gained there comes in very, very handy in my day-to-day work as a localization manager. After moving to Israel like 6 years ago, I kind of pivoted in my career and started to gain my first experiences in the high-tech industry with the company Checkpoint. And after Checkpoint, I joined the localization team at Wix, where I worked for 3 years. And so like about 1.5 years ago, I had the opportunity to join Cato and build and implement their localization strategy and process from scratch, which was a really, really exciting offer. And I didn't want to refuse. I couldn't refuse, and I'm glad I didn't. I've been here ever since, and it was a really exciting journey, and still more to come, hopefully.
Wow, that's really cool. Usually you hear people coming from being a linguist or something like that, and I mean, it's also obviously super connected, but it's really interesting. So I want to hear more about what localization means for Cato Networks. You mentioned that you kind of came in and got to build things from scratch. So what role do you think localization plays at Cato Networks, and how is your team and department structured?
So I'm still the only one, basically, in the localization department. It's still fairly new. But despite that, I do have to say that localization does play a very important role at Cato. We are like a big global company. We have local teams around the world, and therefore also customers all around the globe. So it's incredibly important for us to adjust our messaging to reach this global audience. And we're networking and security companies, so most of our content and products can become a bit more complex, which makes it even more important to kind of adjust the content to make sure that it fits the language needs of each market, but also make it understandable and pick up our audience where they are. Slowly, like in the last year, we've slowly increased our localization efforts, and right now we're working very closely with our local and regional teams to make sure, that we understand the nuances of each region and find the right approach in addressing these markets, especially because it's quite new. So I guess that's where we are, but it's increasing and becoming more professional each day, hopefully. And one day I do hope we will have a, bigger localization department here.
Yeah, absolutely. Step by step. I mean, it's really cool that you get to head this and have the opportunity to take that challenge in your career. So that's awesome. So I guess as a team of one and throughout your localization career, maybe you've experienced that it can be a challenge for loc managers to educate higher management and gain recognition for localization and the fact that it's a really worthy investment. So do you have any tips from your experience for how other localization managers can establish the value of localization?
So I am aware of these challenges, as of course you do come across them every once in a while. But like overall, I have to say that I'm quite lucky here at Cato because my management specifically really understands the importance of our localization efforts and the impact that we can
That's
achieve
great.
by investing in this field. But
Yeah.
as a tip, I guess, like I'm always a big fan of data. I guess that's, also based on the research
Mm-hmm.
background, kind of. I think a lot of these
Yeah.
impacts and improvements that we do can easily be displayed and backed up by data. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, like last year, we've launched, quite a big project of multilingual blogs that we
Yes.
implemented a blog in quite a few languages. We adjusted the content, to fit each market. And not only are we localizing a lot of articles, but we're also creating original content with topics and, content that is specifically relevant for each region. And I have to say, it
Yeah.
was really satisfying to see after this launch. I mean, it was a lot of work, and it was really satisfying to
Mm-hmm.
see how much more traffic we were able to drive from these regions, how were able to,
Yeah.
improve our SEO. And I think like having, this actual, because you can't really argue with data.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Like there were
being
real
able to,
results. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So I mean, a lot of things within localization is also kind of just logical. It kind of makes sense. Obviously, you would think
Right.
that addressing an email in the local language would probably be more effective than having it in English. It's kind of common sense,
Yeah.
but it's always also good to be able to, back up your work and show the improved data, which helps obviously to make your case and convince people to, that the financial investment into the localization department is worth it and not a waste of money.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, Absolutely. So are there any markets that you found particularly challenging to break into throughout your career for one reason or another?
So I think if I had to pick a market, I would say I found Korea to be quite challenging.
Mm.
They have a very unique, like, I mean, despite the language barrier and whatnot,
Yeah.
I do believe they have a very unique approach to things. And, even when it comes to, let's say, search engine optimizations, for example, we can't just even
Hmm.
concentrate, our work on Google like we do with other markets because they have their own unique platforms.
Right. Their
None of us have
own.
ever heard of.
Yeah.
None of us is familiar with. Like everything they do, they just do it in a very unique and specific way.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of companies in the past already failed to enter the Korean market specifically because of this, because it was difficult for them to find the right language,
Yeah.
that kind of resonates with their local customers there. I mean, this might be relevant for other markets as well, but I think that especially for Korea, we kind of, focus on working with local agencies and the local
Hmm.
team to kind of really understand these cultural gaps and discrepancies that we can grasp.
Yeah. I guess there's no one's more of an expert than the locals, the native speakers,
Yeah,
and people that can really understand the
yeah,
culture and what happens in the
always.
country. Yeah.
Sure. Like, I mean, this is
Makes
the case
sense.
for all regions, but I think
Right. Yeah.
I personally feel like in Korea, the gap is the biggest. Like, I think I've never
Yeah.
experienced such a big gap. So, I think that it's worth investing there actually to start a collaboration with local entities.
Yeah, that's great advice. Um, so I'm gonna kind of skip a bit to AI. Um, we know that, AI has exploded and it's impacting basically every industry, and definitely localization industry as well. So how would you say AI impacts your day-to-day as a localization professional? And maybe do you have any tips on how people can use AI to optimize their localization processes?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, obviously, we're also utilizing AI tools. I mean, there's no
Mm-hmm.
denying that AI translations have come a really long way, and especially in the past
Yeah.
decade. Translations have become much more accurate and they're of way higher quality. I mean, I remember like the first days of Google Translate where you just put something in and the results are
Yeah.
just laughable in the best case.
Completely literal
Totally,
translation.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is not the case anymore, and AI does help us, especially when it comes to localizing large quantities of data.
Mm-hmm.
That this data that doesn't need to be in, very really specific or of that high of quality. So it does help us localizing these large quantities. It makes our work very time efficient and obviously also cost effective.
Yeah.
So when it comes to AI and also the automated AI processes, it's actually saving our team valuable time and resources. But at the end of the day, I still do believe that it can't be applied to all areas. So there is still some content that I believe, where humans can't be replaced by AI yet.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I say yet, let's see,
Yeah,
what
who
will be
knows?
in another few years.
Yeah.
Because there's still certain nuances and, that might get lost that the AI tool can capture, or certain aspects and insights where I think we still have to rely on humans to provide these insights.
I guess if AI was at that level and you didn't need you know, humans, that probably anyone could enter any market very easily, and it's not quite the case yet that an
Yet, yeah.
AI can figure out how to get into South Korea and sort out all your, cultural messages and everything. So,
Exactly.
great. So thank you so much, Natascha. I think we're ready to move on to our fun rapid fire questions. So let's start with, what is your favorite language?
I'll have to say French. I can't
Nice.
speak it. I try to. I really like. I'm learning it for years, and I never reached the level of fluency that I would like. But yeah, it has to be French. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, nice. And what's your favorite localization tool?
Phrase. I mean,
Great.
I
Cool.
think it's always the one you're working with at the moment. So
Yeah. As long as you're
force
enjoying
of
it, it's your
habit.
favorite. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And what's your favorite place that you've ever traveled to?
I would say Vietnam.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah, no, it's
And
a very, very amazing place. Very, very unique.
yeah, absolutely. And what's the most successful market you've invested in?
By far, actually, Japan.
Wow.
Yes.
It's funny, you would think that it could have some similarities maybe to South Korea, but I guess it's actually totally different
It's yeah, no,
ballgame.
no, it does. It also has its challenges, of course, but there
Yeah,
the impact of localization that we've seen was the
made a
biggest, and
big
it was
difference.
actually really worth it. Yes.
Awesome. And what's your localization nightmare?
I'll have to say languages that have a right to left switch. This is what's killing me always. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's okay.
hmm
And which brand is your localization crush? So any company whose
It's
localization you
yeah, it
admire.
is. It's a it's a product that I also use almost daily, and I really every time I open it up and like I use it in German, so it's every time I see it, I'm very excited about how good they localize it. I have to say it's Spotify.
Great. So thank you so much, Natascha. Are there any localization projects you have coming up at Cato Networks that we should be looking out for?
Quite a few. We're like in expanding daily, and we're growing as a company. So we do have a few localization projects coming up. We're going to increase our global presence, going to add more languages to our site. But I think what I'm
Amazing.
the most excited about is we're going to continue our partnership with Porsche. And they just
Wow.
started their new Formula E season with races all around the world. We're going to have races in Tokyo and Berlin, and obviously we're planning
Wow.
localized campaigns for each of these races. So this is something I'm most excited about 2024.
Wow, that's super cool. Very exciting. We'll definitely be waiting to see that. So thank you again, Natascha. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your
Thank you for
experiences
inviting
and,
me.
yeah, teaching us about what you guys are doing at Cato Networks. Really amazing. I'm sure your team will grow with time. Like that's super exciting. So thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you.